Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coach-your-PO. All lowercase, all one word. That's bit.ly/coach-your-PO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello everybody, welcome to our Friday and TGIF episode this week with Katerina Reinke. Hey Katerina, welcome back.
Hi Vasco, thanks for having me at the end of the week.
Absolutely, and today we have a quite amazing topic, I think, to talk about. It's one of my favorite topics, the product owner, and it's both sides of the coin, I guess you could call it, the good and the bad. We'll talk about a great product owner in a minute, but before that, do share with us, Katerina, the worst product owner anti-pattern that you've ever witnessed in your career.
I think the worst and most often witnessed product owner anti-pattern by myself that I witnessed is the PO as a project manager. Delegating work, tracking the output, reporting to management, not doing any product exploration, backlog work, and working with the team or guiding the team with a vision and so on. I think that is the worst anti-pattern because it's not really helping the team nor the product owner themselves nor the product in the end. And
So tell us a little bit more. I imagine that such an anti-pattern would emerge, for example, with a conversation in the daily meeting where the product owner says, hey, Mary, you take care of this. Oh, and Joe, this other thing that I told you about yesterday, it needs to be done today. Remember that? And like that kind of conversation, is that how you witness it?
Yes, and also just like getting a lot of requests like that in their own mailbox. And then just getting it through to the teams. Yeah, I think
instead of acting as a filter, acting more like a telephone, right? Like comes in and goes straight to the team.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe not even going through the product owner, but all these tasks reach the members directly, and the team does not have any process yet. How do we cope with all these emails that we get from all our colleagues? They all need our help. And then everyone is just running on their own.
Absolutely. And it also, as you describe it also comes to mind the potential lack of clarity in the sprint planning. I imagine a conversation such as Anne asks, hey, do we also need to do this story? And then maybe Jeff says, not just that story, but remember there's this other refactoring that needs to be done when we do that story. And the PO says yes to everything, right? Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes.
Even worse, when the product owner then asks, Anne, what do you want to do next sprint?
That's actually a great point. I have to write that down. What do you want to do next sprint? And so besides this, I could call it symptoms, signs of this PO as a project manager. What other signs do you see? Maybe in relationship to stakeholders, maybe in relationship to other teams. Like what are the characteristics of that PO as a project manager?
In regards to the stakeholders, as I quickly mentioned at the beginning, it's really about this reporting. Like, okay, I have this list of, 100 things I got from my boss, and my boss requests like a weekly update. How far have you come? And it's really not about the value creation anymore or the outcome created by the team. It's just simply, okay, there were 100 items on the list. How many are still open? Tell me, are we green? are we red? And it's like, I don't want to hear anything about any traffic light metaphors here, please. That reminds me too much of a more traditional project management thing. And we don't have any time to actually talk about the value or the thing, the product that we are working on. Because when you ask a product owner like this, what is actually the product you own? It's really hard for them to answer that question. They list you 100 things, and it's so hard then to have a connection between these many things and many responsibilities. And sometimes it's also not their fault, because as we talked about before, it's a lot about cultural change and how organizations cope with change and with responsibility and ownership in their ranks as well. And but not being able to answer what is your product is one of these project manager symptoms, I would say.
Yeah, so focused on the work, they forget why they're doing it. I recognize that. I've been guilty of the same myself.
And it's easy. I don't blame anyone.
Yeah, I mean, because work tends to just take over your mind, right? Like you're just working on it, and then, that's what you think about. You don't take a step back, right? And I think that's one of the key advantages of a product owner that is able to relinquish control, to let the team do their thing. Those POs are able to then step back and think, why are we doing these things? Why are people asking me for this and that feature, right? Who are we serving? Because if we're constantly doing what I would call shopping list management style product ownership, right? All we have is a shopping list, and there's only two things you can do with a shopping list: is either add stuff or go to the supermarket to fulfill it. There's no other way, right? So, Katerina, that was a bad example, of course, and we always want to have some examples of anti-patterns, but we also want to have a great example. So share with us, what's the best product owner you've ever worked with? How did they work?
So for me, I think one of the nicest product owner relationships I had in the past was one product owner that was able to shift perspectives really swiftly. Like at one point, thinking really big and beyond with the stakeholders, with the management, to have a big vision, to really be able to also stand behind this vision and to also show different options. Like we could do this, this, and this, that outcome, or we can go direction B with a different outcome. What do you think? This is the timeline, this is the costs, and to really have this visual always in your pocket. And I found that really good working. Like this product owner, he always had the same slide, PowerPoint, and he just updated the same slide, but we always had the same visual that changed over time with the timeline, the biggest topics, and then management just connected this slide with this product owner, the product, and the team. And that was so helpful for communication. And on the other hand, this same slide was also really helpful for the team's perspective. That is where I come to the part of shifting perspectives, because as I said, with management, you want to think big, think beyond, but the team, they're on a different level. They work on really detailed technical stuff. And then when I come as a product owner and I feel like I've told you that 100 times before, why have you forgotten about it again? That's not helpful, because they are in their technical details, and it's okay that they don't have the vision on the tip of the fingers at all times. That's why you need the product owner. And then here also as a product owner to be this broken record, to repeat over and over again the vision, why we're doing it, the idea behind the goal that we want to reach in the sprint and also in the next sprint, to provide this guidance. I think that is really helpful. And also here you can use the same slide that you use with management with your team and just annoy them all the time. This is what we're doing. That is where we're heading to. This is the next 3 things we want to achieve, to really get over that feeling that there's a backlog with, 100 open items and I don't know how they're all connected. There's a simple slide, and there is where we want to go. And to create this clarity and direction, I think that is what a very good or even great product owner does.
Absolutely. I really like the emphasis on repeating a visionary picture, right? Like this is where we're going. This is why we're doing it, and doing it both with a high level perspective to the stakeholders as well as to the link to the work when working and talking to the team. I think that is a great idea. And the tip of always having the same visual, right? It always looks the same, and then we're updating it as we go through, and then using that as a repetition. One manager of mine once told me that in order for people to get something, you must repeat it 17 times. Do not expect anyone to remember something you have not repeated 17 times. And
Exactly.
it was so, how do you say, visceral that way that he communicated that to me, that it really stuck.
And it's not that people don't listen or they're dumb or anything. It's just like everyone has their own perspective, and what is important to you might not be the top of the list at my head at the moment, because I have other 10 things that I have to tend to. So if you don't tell me several times that this is really important, it might not make my cut. It's simple as that.
Absolutely. And one addition to that, so repetition is important because it becomes top of mind with time. It doesn't necessarily do that the first time. And then the other thing is that people are always testing you as the product owner, right? They're checking, do you really believe in this? And if you don't repeat it, you can easily change direction and boom, it's fine, right?
Yeah.
But when the product owner is repetitive in the sense of consistent and disciplined in the message, then the team absorbs and takes on that message, and also do the stakeholders.
And also, I think the thing that I discovered there, which was really interesting, is that, of course, the vision changes slightly over time. It doesn't stay the same for 12 months or even 12 weeks. It just changes slightly. And if you don't repeat it ever so often, you miss the slight changes and just hear the big bangs. And it's like, oh, wow, now we changed direction quite a lot. What happened there? And then it feels like this massive thing that brings a lot of noise to the team, instead of these more swifter, steady changes that naturally happens, and it just more natural and more flowy.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. More flowy. It flows better. It's accepted better by the team. Katerina, that was a great story, a great example of an awesome PO. Thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, we are getting close to the end, but before we go, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with you guys there. If you want, drop me a line and maybe we can connect about the topics a bit more.
Absolutely. So don't hesitate. Send follow-up questions to Katerina on LinkedIn. I'll put the link on the show notes so that people can easily find it. Katerina, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you for letting me join you this week, Vasco.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.